Peacock Redo and Other Short Stories, narrated by the author James R. Nelson. This story is titled Nightmare on Oak Street. Jeremy Dawson sat on the porch daydreaming. He couldn't believe his luck. Not only was it the first day of summer vacation, and he could stay up as late as he wanted, but a huge moving van had pulled up to the empty house next door. Two large men were busy unloading furniture. Jeremy looked to see if any strangers were in or around the house. New neighbors. Who could they be? Did they have a kid who liked to play baseball? Now that would be great. Did they know the house was haunted? He stood up to get a better view of what was going on. For the next 2 hours he watched them carry in piece after piece of old furniture, all dark wood and flowered prints. No bunk beds, no toys, no bicycles. A long black Buick Riviera pulled up behind the moving van and stopped. A tall man with a long face stepped out. He walked over to the passenger side and held the door for a beautiful woman with long blonde hair. They walked up to the sidewalk to the porch. The man made a big sweeping gesture, which Jeremy interpreted as, "Well, here it is, your big new house." Jeremy raised his hand to his forehead to shade out the sun. He pressed himself into the porch railing. That man. How did he know him? Why did he look so familiar? Jeremy's mouth fell open. He took a quick step backward. The long, thin face, the pale skin. It was Dr. Cadaver, the guy who introduced the horror movies on TV every Saturday night. Dr. Cadaver was moving into the house next door, the haunted house next door. He had to tell Trev about this. Jeremy ran to the garage, grabbed his bicycle, and pedaled as fast as he could down the alley to his friend's house. Loud footsteps sounded on the porch. Trev looked up from a magazine. "Geez, Jeremy, you sound like a herd of elephants. What's your hurry?" You aren't going to believe this." He stopped and tried to catch his breath. "Believe what? Are you all right? You need some water or something? Your face is all red." Jeremy stood in front of him and took several deep breaths. "No, I'm okay. I can't believe what just happened." "What happened?" "I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but a moving van pulled up to that haunted house next to us, and guess who moved in?" "There aren't any real haunted houses. Why do you keep saying that house is haunted?" "Because I know the kid who lived there. He told me about how things would be moved around in the morning and how stuff would disappear. They only stayed there a few months. His dad thought the place was haunted too. That's why they moved out. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to tell you. Guess who moved in?" Trev thought for a moment. "I know. Barbara Franklin? The cute girl from school with the huge—" No, not her. It's Dr. Cadaver. He's moving in right next door." Trev's eyes got wide. "The spooky guy from TV? Yeah, I just saw him drive up with his wife. They pulled up behind the moving van and walked into the house. I couldn't believe it." "Why would he be moving next to you? I thought he lived in Hollywood or something." "He doesn't live in Hollywood. Every station has its own creepy guy who talks about the monster movies on Saturday night. I went to stay with my cousin Jimmy in Chicago. They had a different guy there." "That's pretty cool. Let's go over and meet him." Jeremy stepped back. "Are you nuts? He's a vampire." Trev laughed. "He's not real, dummy. He's some actor the station hires to dress up goofy and scare us before the movies start. If he was a vampire, how could he be out in the sun? Vampires only come out at night." He held up the magazine he'd been reading. "Look, I just got this month's Famous Monster magazine." He stood. "Come on, I want to show you my new model." Jeremy followed him into the house and up to Trev's room. Trev pointed. "Look, it's the Phantom of the Opera. He's holding his mask so you can see his burnt-up face. Ain't it cool?" Jeremy turned away. "Oh, I hate those models. They give me nightmares. Ma had to throw away my Frankenstein one because I kept seeing it during the night." Trev laughed. "You're a big chicken. What are you going to do now with a vampire living right next door?" The next morning, Harold Katz drank coffee at the kitchen table with his wife. "Where's my cape? I'm going to see if the paper's here. I called and told them our new address. They said it would be here this morning." She took a drag from a cigarette. You're not going to start that shit again, are you? Forget about that damn cape. Let's try and live a normal life for a change." He laughed. "Normal? Come on. I've got a reputation to uphold. Everyone knows me as Dr. Cadaver. Did you see that kid next door when we pulled up? I thought his eyes were going to pop out of his head when he recognized me." She stubbed out her cigarette. "We almost got run out of the last neighborhood because of your damn ego. You don't always have to be on, you know. You can give it a rest when you're away from the station. Hey, I'm lucky I still got an audience. I talked to Bill over at WCKY, and he's worried about losing his job. Said his numbers are way down this year. This has been a good gig for me, and you too. If I lose this job, guess who's going to have to go out and get one? You. I swear, Harold, if you pull that shit again, I'm out of here. I want to finally live a nice, quiet, respectable life and not be the poor woman who's married to the lunatic next door." Harold ignored her, got up from the table, and went upstairs to his bedroom. He found the cardboard box with his fright wig and cape. He gently took them out, walked over to the full-length mirror and put them on. He smiled. Showtime. He walked back downstairs and slowly pushed the front door open. Was the kid next door around? Yes, sitting on the porch, looking over at the house. Harold bent over and walked down the sidewalk like he was a 100-year-old man. His white wig was blowing in the morning breeze. He was careful not to step on the hem of the black satin cape he had draped over his shoulders. Damn, why hadn't he put in his plastic fangs? He bent down, grabbed the paper, and snuck a glance over at the house next door. A boy about 12 years old had a look of horror on his face for about a second before he spun around and disappeared into the house. Harold smiled. He still had it. A door slammed behind him. Harold's wife stormed by him carrying a suitcase. "Where are you going?" "I warned you. I'm going to my sister's. A cab's meeting me at the corner." Harold glanced over at the house next door to see if anyone was watching. He yelled as his wife stomped down the sidewalk. "You'll be sorry. Someday I'm going to be famous. And rich, too." Lenny Erickson sat across the booth from his friend Joe at the Sneaky Pete bar. "I think the heat's off now. I'm thinking of hopping a freight train and heading out west." Joe picked up his glass. "I think these creeps are watering down the whiskey." He set the glass back down. "How long's it been since you walked away from the work detail?" Lenny counted on his fingers. 3 months. Joe nodded. "Yeah, the cops probably forgot all about you now." "You still hiding out in that house on Oak Street?" Lenny smiled. "Yep. That used to be our house. When I was a kid, my old man built a hidden room down there in the basement to stash all the stuff he stole. I've been staying there the whole time." He leaned closer to Joe. "Hey, now I got the whole place to myself. I scared away the family who was renting it." He leaned back and laughed. "They thought the place was haunted. So why you want to go out west?" "I've been hiding it down there during the days and only coming out at night. It gets pretty boring. Today's the first day I've been able to get outside while it's light. Now that the heat's off, I think I'll get out of here for a while." Joe finished his drink. "Come on, I got stuff to do. Let me give you a ride back there." As they neared Oak Street, Lenny pointed. "Look, there's a damn moving van parked there." Joe slowed down the car. "What are you going to do?" "Drop me off in the alley. I'll have to sneak back in them when I can." Trev paced back and forth in front of Jeremy's neighbor's house. "Come on, you can do it. Just walk up and ring the doorbell. He's probably an okay guy." He took a step and then stopped. "What if he's a jerk?" "Oh, just go over and get it over with." Trev clutched his notebook, walked up to the porch steps, and rang the doorbell. Harold sat on the kitchen table and smiled. He looked at the clock. Well, that didn't take long. His wife was back already. He went to the front door and threw it open. "Back so soon?" Trev looked up. No, I've never been here. I was just wondering if you'd be kind enough to give me your autograph. My friend, the kid who lives next door, and I are your biggest fans." Harold looked down the block for his wife. "Sure, kid, I'll sign your paper. Where's your buddy?" "I asked him to come with me, but he's too scared. He thinks you're a real vampire." Harold wished he had put on his wig and cape. "How do you know I'm not?" Trev laughed. because you're outside in the sun. If you was a real one, you'd be all burned up by now. Maybe I know a secret spell that protects me. Trev thought for a moment. I never heard of that. I've got an idea, Harold said. What? You want to have a little fun and scare your friend tonight? Sure, Trev said. How? How late do you kids get to stay up during the summer? I have to be home by 10 o'clock. Harold smiled. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Go tell your friend you came over and tried to get my autograph, but I told you to come back at 9 o'clock. Tell your friend I'm not a vampire, and then ask him to come with you. I'll have the front door open. The house will be dark except for a few candles. I'll be lying in a coffin in the dining room all dressed up. When you and your friend come in, I'll jump up and scare you both. Trev smiled. Oh, that'll be great. Jeremy's gonna wet his pants. Jeremy was sitting on the porch in the dark when Trev jumped off his bicycle and leaned it against the house. What's that? Trev asked, staring at Jeremy's hand. It's a piece from my erector set we can use as a stake if we have to. He held up a hammer. And we can pound it in the vampire with this. What's wrong with you? I told you the man's just an actor. He's a nice guy. He was nice enough to want me to bring you over tonight so he can sign autographs for both of us. Remember how nice the vampire was in The Vampire's Curse? He had almost everybody fooled in that movie, not me. He's not going to fool me. If he tries something, I'm ready. You better stick that stuff behind your back, or else you'll make him mad, and we won't get anything. Trev looked at his watch. Come on, it's 10 after 9. Jeremy walked several steps behind Trev as they crossed the lawn over to the neighbor's house. Trev walked up the steps and knocked on the door. After a few seconds, Jeremy turned. I don't think anybody's home. Let's go back to my house. Not so fast. Trev turned the knob and the door swung open. He stepped into the foyer and motioned for Jeremy to join him. It's dark in there, Jeremy whispered. There's a light in the next room. Let's see if he's there. Trev grabbed Jeremy by the shirt sleeve and stepped toward the flickering shadows. Lenny paced back and forth in the small room in the basement. He had to pee. Why had he drank those last 2 beers? He couldn't wait any longer. He tiptoed out of his hiding place, walked over to the steps and listened. It was quiet. He ascended the stairway and stepped into the kitchen. The house was dark. Just as he pulled open the bathroom door, a high-pitched scream penetrated the silence. Somebody was in trouble. Not just in trouble, but in mortal danger. Lenny ran toward the dining room. Trev was doubled up with laughter. It's just a joke, Jeremy. It's only Dr. Cadaver all dressed up. As Harold crawled out of the casket, Lenny burst into the room. Stand back, he yelled at the boys. He ran up and punched Howard in the face, knocking him back into the coffin. Jeremy reached out and handed him the stake and hammer. He's a vampire. You got to use these. Lenny grabbed the erector set piece and bent over Harold. The boys turned and closed their eyes. After 3 quick blows, Lenny dropped the hammer. It's done. We got to get out of here and call the cops. Harold's eyes fluttered. His wife was sitting next to him in a very white room. Where am I? You idiot, you're in the hospital. You almost got yourself killed. What happened? From what the police could figure out, you were up to your old tricks scaring the neighborhood kids. Some escaped prisoner who was hiding out in the basement thought you were a real vampire. He hammered a thin piece of metal into you. Doctor said it went through one of your ribs but missed all your vital organs. She held up a handful of yellow papers. What's that? Telegrams. You've been sedated for a day and a half. Word got out about what happened, and all of a sudden you're some kind of a celebrity. She pulled out one of the papers and tossed it on the bed. The Tonight Show wants you. She pulled out another one. So does Merv Griffith. She paused. Oh, they want the kid who almost killed you, too. They're calling him Van Helsing Jr. Isn't he in jail for attempted murder? No, he was on a work crew for 6 months for stealing a carton of Luckies. Once they heard how he put himself at risk and tried to save the kids, they commuted his sentence to time served. Harold pulled the covers up to his chin. What a damn nightmare. I'm glad you're back. He smiled and reached for his wife's hand. I think I've finally learned my lesson.